introduce you to 4 amazing millennials, each one in a different area of profession, but all in the creative side of their work, of their jobs. So I started thinking of how to build this panel so it would be the best thing that you could get from each one of them. So there is somebody from public relations, there is somebody from an advertising agency, there is somebody from journalism, and then there is somebody from education. And I think that it's going to be a fantastic panel. They're all under, I want to say under 27. A little bit more? Under 30, I like that. They're all under 30, they fall under the millennials. And so you also know, and you have had a chance to talk to them already, the Ford Millennials project was started around 2 years ago. And thanks to Ford and the project, it was to bring Hispanic millennials to give them opportunities to network and educate themselves from different cities that have big Hispanic communities, and also to give them the experiences. So they have gone to the Latism conference in New York. They have visited the Ford Trends conference in Detroit. They were in Miami last year, and they have returned to Miami. So hopefully the next 2 cities that we visit will be Dallas and Los Angeles. So they are representatives from all those cities, and I want to thank you guys for being here with us and being open to everything that you're getting in, and that you will bring it back to your own cities and see, and use what you have learned today. And I just want to say, so we can say happy birthday today, it's Led Black's birthday. Yes. So I wanted to be sure that everybody said happy birthday to him. So yesterday we were at a Ford event that presented the edge and the different things. There was media there, and they presented, because usually when they go to the different cities, they have a panel and they present. So this time for them is different because they are listening to other millennials talking about their experiences. So with further ado, I want to introduce the creative panels on Millennials for Millennials. It's going to be a conversation. So what I have asked them to do is to let you know their education, what brought them, the different jobs they have, their internships, where are they doing now, where they see each other in the future, and basically a horror story and a positive story of what they have had to deal with as millennials, as a generation. Hi, Danny. How are you? And we have Danny Rivero here, and I will tell you about Danny when we're finished with the creative panel. He'll be talking to us also. He was our original Ford Millennial Ambassador from Miami, and I'm so happy he's here with us. So, to introduce Brandon Lopez. Hi, Brandon. He is social media producer for NBC6, and he will be telling you the fantastic story. I can tell you a little bit of how I met Brandon. And I met Brandon through Twitter 5 years ago when I first got introduced to Twitter, and there was no picture of Brandon. So we didn't know who Brandon Lopez was. We just knew that Brandon Lopez was very active, very engaging, knew what he was talking about. And so we started doing this social media group that we finally called the Miami Rat Pack. And when we all were ready to meet each other, we decided, okay, let's go to a bar, let's go to a restaurant, let's go, 7 o'clock, let's all meet. And Brandon is like, can't make it. And we were like, okay, I don't have a car. Oh, we'll go and pick you up. I don't drive. So we realized that all this time, we had been dealing with a very, very engaging 16-year-old who was still in high school. And that didn't take away from the fact that he was, since the beginning, and he will tell you more, was being driven by his passion to what he wanted to do. After is Johann Lopez. Johann is community manager at Alma, Dade, which is the top multicultural advertising agency in the US. Second year in a row advertising. He works in community management for social media department at Alma. He studied at Quinnipiac University communications in the communication schools in Connecticut. And since the beginning, he was doing PR and did internships with Burson Marsteller, work at Dentsu, work with Latin to Latin. I have to say he worked with NOS Communications, which is my agency, and there is a story behind that, but I'm not going to say that. I am very proud that he's my son. I hope that he tells the story, and I'm hoping he'll tell the story of Indiegogo. So I'm not going to say it, but I'll let him say the story of Indiegogo that just happened. Following is Ralph Sangiovanni, Rafael Sangiovanni. Ralph is producer and social media producer for RBB. I know it as RBB PR, so I always say RBB PR. So their Twitter handle is @RBB PR, which is one of the most fantastic PR agencies in the city of Miami. And he has been working for them with the digital part and with their clients. And Ralph is also a musician, which I hope that he goes into what his passions are outside of his professional life. And as we know, millennials do have many different things that they like to do, and many different aspects of what they like. Following is Andrew Cassidy. Thank you, Andrew, for being here. Andrew was appointed last year as the director of social media for the Miami-Dade College, which is the biggest college in the nation. Actually, we have the Wilson campus, which is the ones that came here last year, the Millennials, we went to Social Media Week there. So you visited the Wilson campus, but it has 7 campuses, no?
7 campuses and 2 outreach centers.
And 2 outreach centers. So he has, I think, his hands very much full with dealing with the social media. He'll tell you a little bit more about the millions of accounts that he has to look over and how many people he has working under him, etc. So let's give them a great applause. So the first question, and I'm going to let this be a conversation between you guys and the audience, is when you started, education-wise, did you see yourself where you are now, and where was your education? Brandon?
Well, when I got my start, I was fresh out of high school, and I landed as an intern at a magazine that's not too far from here, actually. And a couple months later, I got promoted to be the assistant social media and digital coordinator for the magazine. And I started moving up the ranks fairly quickly, and you know, I'm somewhat ashamed to say this, but I'm not at the same time, because it kind of worked to my advantage, is that I ended up putting school on the back burner. And I felt that I didn't really need to go to college because I was on this right path with my career. So I ended up going to work digital marketing for another company, and then I started working in television. I was at Channel 7, and then now I've been at NBC6 for 3 years now. And now I'm realizing that I do need to go back to school, so, so I'm actually starting school again this semester.
Thank you for the great introduction. Yeah, so I did not see myself working at an ad shop at all because I studied PR. It was something that I grew up with. My mother did it, my father did it, and plus I just loved to write. So that's just kind of felt as if that's the right path to go. When I was in school, that's what I studied, that's what I loved. And when you actually get out in the field, you know, you land a job, and you kind of see how things work. And then I just saw at that point, and to your point, to your presentation, is that you have to do something that you love. So I love to write, I just didn't love what I was doing. So I thought that since it's early in my career, I can kind of do that pivot, which you can do really at any point of your career as well. But I thought, hey, I love social, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. And then I would start to apply to ad shops. So I worked at Burson for a while, it's a PR shop, and then I worked at Dentsu, the ad shop, doing PR there. And I just fell in love with the culture. I was like, what am I doing? I need to start to work in this. These guys come to work in jeans and t-shirts, and they brainstorm all day, throw darts at dartboard. I'm like, I need to know what they're doing. So then I kind of learned more, and then I was like, you know what? I really like what they do. I'll have lunch with them more often to kind of learn more. And then I decided to move to Miami to work at a small shop called Ronin, which was great because that's where I really got to get my feet wet. And then I work at Alma, DBB. So, I mean, you really don't know where things would go, but you just have to really follow your heart.
So, like Johann, my passion also started with writing, but also, like Johann, I did not land where I planned to at all. My passion started in print media. I actually founded my high school's newspaper, the Viper 5, which is a silly name, but it worked for the time. And so when I went to college, I went to my idea was I'm going to go be a print journalist. This is the thing that I'm most passionate about. I'm writing, it's getting your name in print. There's this like fire in my belly about it. Then I got to college and saw that that wasn't going to happen very, very well. Now I used to joke that I wanted to make as little money as possible because my degrees were print journalism and creative writing. And so once I actually got a job at the Miami Herald as a web producer managing their website, I was let go after about 8 months simply because of budget cuts, one of those kinds of things. And I just got to be familiar with people in the industry and struggles, and I realized it just wasn't for me. Landed at a fitness magazine called SobiFit, which I think it lasted about a year and a half or so, and there I also started as a web producer and morphed into kind of a marketing position. And this was around the time where Facebook and Twitter were starting to become more widely used by companies. There was a period of time where Facebook pages were absolutely these hideous two-column, like freakish looking page things, but I knew how to put one together. So when the magazine folded, I was kind of left with a series of skills that I had nothing to do with that I did. I got writing, I have an interest in social, I like talking with people. I don't know what I can do with any of this stuff. I guess I'll just try and find some other writing position. I actually went to, some of you may be familiar with Blackbird Ordinary, the bar in Periscoped. It used to be called Transit Lounge, and I was there with a friend that I hadn't seen since high school when we played in a band. Guy Luigi, and he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm unemployed, it sucks. And he's like, well, you should talk to my girlfriend. And she swept down like a little PR angel. Because I've never seen her again since. She just went down, she said, oh, did you know this company, RBB, is hiring for a social media coordinator position? And she flitted away. I've never seen her again since. And so I thought, let me check this out. So I read it, and you get paid to do social media work? Are you kidding me? Okay, I'll apply. So I did. Got the job. And that's where I've been for the past 5 years. And my job has morphed tremendously over time. Started off as a content creator and community manager, and it's morphed into a producer position, which is basically now I'm the guy who makes projects happen. And I'll explain a little bit more about it as we get into some of the examples.
I got my start, basically, the irony of it all is that I started my education at Miami-Dade College, where I personally work. I started out there with not even the remotest clue of what I wanted to do. I knew I loved communication, I knew I loved technology, and I knew those worlds would fuse together someday. But kind of jumping in a different direction, the greatest thing that I ever did was focus on my soft skills. I had the privilege and the gross discomfort of taking an argumentation and debate class. I was very shy, I just moved to Miami, and in this class I learned to be able to communicate effectively, to be persuasive, to figure out what people were looking for, how to tap on the logical side, how to tap on the side where you can kind of relate to people a little bit more personally. And I garnered all these skills, and I eventually transferred up to Emerson College in Boston, where I started pursuing a degree in communication. My first day at Emerson, I said I need a job. I had a laughable bank account statement. I was right out in front of Dunkin' Donuts begging for money with everybody else. And I went over there, and on my first day, it was orientation. I walked up to the department chairperson for the communication department, and just started talking, just started conversing. And in that conversation, I convinced him to give me a job. And this job was a job that didn't exist. It was not a student job. He actually opened a separate line at the college so that I could have a job while I was there. And this job was actually to handle the digital marketing of that department. This is something that wasn't even being done at the time. There was no, the Emerson College didn't really have a social presence. So I just started it off, created ourselves these separate little pages here and there, and they really started taking off, both for prospective students as well as for building community with the students who were already there. And then from this, the college actually took notice. They ended up shutting our site down because they realized socials where they needed to be. Knocked us out for about 6 months, retooled, and then that's when the Emerson College social presence actually got started. While I was there, I ended up actually interning back at Dade College just to see what everything was going on. I was there saying, hey, I think social is something that we should probably be paying a little bit more attention to which I was told that this is something that's really dangerous. There's a lot of fear about representing the organization online, especially having a college student have anything to do with that. Let's fast forward a few years later, I ended up, I think it was like a 4-year difference between when I was an intern and when I was director of social media at the same institution. So, it just shows that that kind of persuasiveness that you need. You do need that soft skill for the building, no matter how skillful you are in social or any other mediums that you choose to pursue. But also that skill set, used in conjunction with those soft skills, can help you kind of accelerate your life and get a little bit further, a little bit faster, and kind of make a larger impact when you get there.
Great. One of the things that I remember that I would like for you guys, because you graduated or are in the process of going to school, one of the things that I remember that it affected the millennials back in 2010 was the recession. And yes, okay, you see their faces, immediately change. And it was something that was happening in 2010 and also gave you guys in the future, in the last 5 years, kind of a bad rap. You still live with your parents, you changed jobs, you have heard all of this. And I still think that it had to do with the economic times that were happening, and so I would like to talk, or you guys talk a little bit about those stumbling blocks that you saw getting out of college, or just because of the economic and the jobs that you were getting, and what was the perception from the companies when you were going for these jobs? What were they offering you, etc.?
Well, I was in high school, so I had no chance to watch that. So I'll get to these guys.
So I finished school in 2010. It was rough, as you made a great point about that. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. And yeah, it was not easy whatsoever. I don't want to hear the word loans or student loans, and I knew I had to get a job soon. So like most kids, I went back home. I was up in New Haven, then I came home, and I quickly thought to myself, like, hey, I don't want to be back in my mom's house. So, I lived alone for the past 4 years. So I was like, okay, Mom, I love you, but I'm gonna go visit some friends in New York. Turns out I never came back for another 3 years. I absolutely loved it there. I love the fact that it was like the hustle and bustle of the whole thing. I looked for jobs thinking that I'll get a job immediately. In fact, it took me 8 months to land a job there. For the time being, I found a job in a steakhouse to pay rent. That's pretty much what you have to do. There was no jobs, and of course they didn't want to hire kids that are right out of school. So those 8 months were great. You learned a lot. You learned how to maintain yourself as an adult. You have fun too. And then the great part about that is that you network as much as you can. So that's actually how I got my first job, was just through networking and meeting a ton of people. And just being very proactive. But if you're not proactive, you just sit on your couch, you're not going to get a job. So, you really go to have a coffee, not to ask for the job. You go just to talk, to learn more about what they have to say. And then you're like, thank you, let's keep in touch. And then they would give you another 3 people to get in contact with. Keep doing that, and you make a lot of friends. And eventually, you can land a job. But that's how I got my first job. I don't regret it whatsoever. I love you, but it has nothing to do with you. That's not when I come back home. It's just, it was a point in my life that I don't have kids, I'm not married. So I was just, what the hell, I'm gonna move up there. And literally, you could ask her, I went to go visit friends, I packed for a week, and I had to have her send my clothes up there.
You never came back.
A week turned into a month, a month turned into 3 years. So, again, to my point, as before, you just really got to follow your gut. You got to do something that you love.
So why'd you move back?
Why did I move back? Because I was working in PR when I was there. And then I wanted to work in advertising. Since I didn't study that at all, I was like, I'm going to still try to get a job there. It was just way too hard. I mean, I tried to get a job there. It took 3 months. I don't have a portfolio, I don't have a background in it. So then I applied for a job down here. I got it. So I didn't leave by choice, but I got a great job here. So I moved back down. It was great. I mean, I grew up here, so I had friends and fam here, so it was nice. New York is great too. But I mean, it was the door that let me really venture into a new career that now is something that I absolutely love. So no regrets.
Yeah, so the recession was, mildly put, a very stressful time for a college student starting to rack up debt. And I had the good fortune of living with my mother and having a stable girlfriend who is now my wife after 15 years. And so, as you can tell, I'm a person who likes stability. And so this was, you know, I knew coming out of high school that I wanted to do print journalism, and it just wasn't working out. It was just, it's like trying to paddle upstream. And, you know, but one of the most valuable things that came of that and how I responded to it is that, you know, they say character is forged in fire. And so what I learned at that time that I continue to preach, and I really, really believe in, is that every skill that you obtain can be built upon itself to what you want to do. Everything and anything. I was talking to a few of you guys before about the different things that you do, and there was like video production, and there was photography, there's the networking that you do, there's a passion for social. These are all things that I sort of just collected over time. We were talking about the soft skills. And all of those things are what helped me get to where I am now. Because as a reporter, one of the things that, there are a couple of tenets I had to adhere to. I had to be on time, I had to write concisely and clearly, I had to be communicative. Has anybody here reported? Like, Dad, you were in WLRN, so you know there's an old adage that they used to say, early is on time is late. So those are the kinds of things that I just got into my being and have helped me now as a PR pro, especially in the digital marketing side. I have to be on time, I have to be organized, I have to write well and concise and be communicative and be good at networking. All of those things built upon themselves. So as I was going in for interviews, originally I struggled with this because I thought it was a weakness. Because reporters are typically seen as people who are good at a lot of things, but not great at very many. And I took that originally as a weakness and converted it into a strength, because now I can actually do more things. I became this sort of jack of all trades at RBB, where you can call me to do a video, to do your social marketing. Two of the accounts that I worked on, this is Butterworth's, the syrup bottle, and Plastic Storage Pickle Burr. I was the voice of both of those on social media at the same time. The skills that I had as a reporter allowed me to do that while also promoting the firm's own presence. I still do this as Butterworth, so to say, while doing the presence and also helping to build websites and do a couple of digital campaigns. And funny enough, the teacher from high school, who I started the newspaper with, tells me every year that I need to reserve October, because she calls me back to FSPA, which is at FIU, it's a student journalism, where I basically preach this exact same thing. Because you have a lot of kids in yearbook who are like, what am I supposed to do with yearbook skills? I'm like, you need to go be a campaign manager, you need to go be an ad manager. You guys have to coordinate huge productions. It's about inspiring them for the same kinds of things. So I was told that you should learn as much as you can, because it all builds on itself, and you'll probably end up using it someday. That's what I ended up doing. That's how I got through the recession.
So the recession was still going on while I was in school. I still needed to make money, didn't have my degree yet, so I started grabbing, random odd jobs. I was a host at a radio station up in Boston. Tons of fun, horrible shift. Sunday mornings at 3 a.m. You get a lot of strange phone calls at that time. Even stranger requests, not necessarily songs. So I was doing that, and then I was with a bunch of like-minded individuals, each having different skill sets. And this is a big hint for all of you in this room right now. So my friends and I were like, man, we need to make some money. Hey, we need to plan for the future. What are we going to do? So we ended up building our own PR firm in college. And it worked out extraordinarily well. You know something about Emerson College? It's a communications school through and through. But we have people that do video production, we have people that do photography, people that do radio, speech writing, books, all this stuff. So, I had this very eclectic group group of friends who had many different skills, but all in the field of communication. So this is where we started saying, hey, this is something we can do. Let's target to our own audience and see how this goes. We started off with a free headshot day. So we started, taking photos because we have a large number of student actors that are looking to, go to Hollywood and these other things. We're doing a free headshot day, whether it be for your LinkedIn profile or for what have you. And we're just going to build our brand. Honestly, probably about half the college showed up for that event. We got all this press, we got, obviously the student newspaper, but then we started getting local newspapers, all this other coverage, and it just boosted our reputation to the point where we were able to start bringing in alternate clients from beyond the college itself. The other commonality was we were in Boston, but a lot of us were actually from Miami originally. So we were actually able to tap into a client base in 2 locations while, living in dorms in Boston. Of course, no one ever knew any of this, because we had to make ourselves seem like we're a little bit bigger and more well-to-do than we actually were. But we started, grabbing clients here and there. We did really successful, helped, fund my life while I was in college. Unfortunately, though, once graduation hit, this is when we, all parted ways. Everyone had their jobs lined up, or just was returning home, which meant that our little group, regardless of its success, ended up falling apart. So, now I'm faced with, the reality of the recession. I'm back at home. I literally, I think it was my first week back, I just went on eBay and started selling all of my things just so I had money. Not kidding. But it was just something to kind of build up, and I started just doing what I knew, doing what I was passionate about. So I kind of tapped into that communication debate side, and I was actually an assistant debate coach and speech tutor. That jumped into my doing life coaching and other things like that. That jumped into my doing my own kind of personalized social media and marketing and PR. Just my own personal brand, and doing that slowly but surely until I could find something that was more, a little bit more stable and full time. Ended up getting a job at Miami-Dade College, doing marketing for a specific department. It's called Learning Resources and Libraries and Computer Courtyard. Something that takes a little effort to make interesting, to be completely honest. But I started doing that. I was actually starting to familiarize myself with the brand once again, able to start kind of building on that. And that became my jumping point to show that I had this very eclectic set of skills. I was still able to relate to the student population, and then make that be my springboard into the position.
So going back to the shift, the 3 o'clock a.m. shift, I think Brandon, even though he did not graduate during the recession, you can talk a little bit about when you're passionate about something and you need the money and you want to pursue your dreams, there are certain weird times. Can you tell us about what your shift is now at NBC6?
I'm trying to stay awake right now as we speak. But like you mentioned, when you do something you're passionate about, you're willing to do whatever you need to do. So the way I got my start in this business in TV was at Channel 7. And when I got called back for that interview, I went in and he was like, listen, I'd like to offer you a job. I was like, yes. And he's like, oh wait, I haven't sold you on the position yet. I was like, all right. He's like, well, you're going to be making minimum wage and you're going to be working 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. I was like, all right, let's do it. So, I was all for it, and it was definitely tough. It took quite an adjustment period. But 2 weeks into the job, I got offered a job to come over to NBC, and I took it. And then they put me on the day-side shift, so I got to work at 2 p.m. so that I was able to have some normalcy again and be able to go out and hang out with friends. But last month I got offered the job to be our social media producer. And I accepted it, and they were like, but wait, we want you to focus now on the morning show. So now I'm like, all right, cool. So, now I'm back working the overnight shift, but again, it's something that I'm passionate about, something I love. And, I do have to make a ton of sacrifices for it, but, if it's going to make you happy in the long run, you got to do it. And, so now I'm back working at 4 a.m. I'm at the station, and waking up at 2:45. So, it's interesting, but, again, it's for the love of the job. So you definitely do have to make sacrifices for whatever you see yourself doing in the future.
So we all know, and as millennials, and the millennials know, that branding, product management, talking to them about education, any way that it's millennials talking to millennials. And that's why we created this channel, because many times how they're getting their information or who are they listening to is peers. And I would love to hear on your present job right now, what are you doing to engage those millennials, other than using your normal voice, because you are all millennials, but what are certain things that you might be able to give them, like tips of how there are different things that they do, like Golden has his own organization with Get Focused, and Lupita is finishing her master's in social work. Led has Uptown Collective. How do you speak to your audiences, either millennials?
Well, NBC is realizing that, digital really is becoming the future of the way that they deliver news and the way that we broadcast a good portion of our content, which is ironic because NBC is a television network. So the fact that, there's been a very big push from our management teams from both corporate and on a local level, they're saying, listen, we're going to start devoting more of our resources digitally. And that's where they know that a bulk of our audience is coming from, because they know that, we're the ones that are going to be loyal to the brand. Us millennials, we're the ones that are going to be loyal to the brand for years to come. And they know that, digitally is the way that we like to receive our information. So we're putting a lot more focus onto our social platforms, onto our app, onto our website, because they know that this is the way that we like to receive our content. Yes, there is still obviously a big focus on television and whatnot, but they know that in the long run, digital could potentially be the future of this business. Is it going to phase out television? Absolutely not. That's most likely not going to happen, but they do know that the digital aspect of this business is growing. And they are putting a lot of focus onto that, and there's a lot of pressure on us to be able to engage more with the millennials and engage more with that target audience. So it's really interesting to see how the dynamic of this business that we once all thought that we were going to get into, which was TV, is now becoming digital.
Actually, before you start, it's funny because that's true, you do work on television. How many millennials here watch TV all the time? You do? Okay, because we have had this discussion a couple of days ago about millennials not watching TV. They are actually digitally, so I would think that NBC6 digital platform is actually the source of information that if a millennial wants to come, instead of going at 6 o'clock news, sort of to say, they're not looking at 6 o'clock news.
True.
They're looking at the news digitally.
This has destroyed almost the television platform. It's become, we can literally get whatever information we want to know, whenever we want it, thanks to this and thanks to that. And it's become a matter of, why do I need to sit down and wait for the 5 p.m. newscast when I can learn whatever it is that I need to know thanks to this. So, it's a double-edged sword, but, it's...
And what's trending on Twitter?
And what's trending.
Those 10 trends, you put US, you put Europe, you put the world, and suddenly it's like, okay, it's starting to trend, what's happening? And you think, oh my God, somebody died, somebody did, and you hadn't heard, but it's news that are happening live at the moment.
And that's even some of the focus that we've started taking for us. It's like, it's not so much, yeah, it was a robbery, or yeah, somebody was murdered. It's like, okay, this is trending on Twitter for a reason. Maybe, for example, and I hate to say it, but Kim Kardashian, she was, accused, she put a picture with, I guess there was an FDA violation or whatever. That was a story that we did pursue because it was gaining a lot of traction online, and we knew that we would get that kind of traction as well. So, we kind of reported on that. Is it something that would necessarily be reportable on TV? That's, another editorial call, but, us digitally, we knew that that was a story that would do well. So we were like, great, let's do it.
Johann? In the advertising world, with your clients, and I suppose your clients are very much interested in pursuing the demographic of the millennials, and that's why a lot, maybe you can tell us what percentage or how many of the people that work at Alma are millennials, and that voice that you are imparting to your clients' branding.
Okay. So there's a lot of brands that we work with that our target is not millennials, excuse me, whatsoever. But then there's some which are so like Bud Light or Presidente, and like a drink, like have a good time. So yeah, there's a certain tone for that. But then there's State Farm and state fund pretty much, which, you know, we want to reach a higher age. But when it comes to the culture within my shop, I mean, roughly millennials that work there, believe it or not, I am the youngest ones there. They are older, which at times like sucks because they're not as ahead as they should be when it comes to social. And they're more conservative, but we're growing, it's better. But yeah,
RBBPR, how do you manage?
Well, it's funny that you say that because we're in the process of really rethinking and how we position ourselves around a lot of what we're talking about here, which is, you know, as RBB community